if indeed these are the outlines of a possible, at least, stopping the tremendous bombardment of Ukraine with so many lives lost. I think we all would welcome a ceasefire. But it's not only about territory, which will be suspect. It's how do you guarantee enforcement of those lines? How do you make sure that Russia doesn't go further? Does Russia also require that the Ukraine not join the European Union, not join NATO? That in the past, Putin has said that Ukraine must demilitarize. I can't imagine Zelensky doing that. And although the Ukrainian people are war weary for a very good reason, and really wish this horrible war would be over, this horrific illegal invasion, it does remain to be seen not only whether Zelensky will accept this and Ukraine as a whole, but whether Europe, which will have to enforce this future, and NATO will accept it.
You wonder what kind of message we're sending here, realizing that parts of the Donetsk and Luhansk have been under Russian occupation since 2014, illegally. Putin declared the 4 Ukrainian regions to be forever part of Russia when he announced the annexation back in 2022, even though he's never actually controlled these territories. So this deal would codify this arrangement, and you tell me, would not tell other nations to try to do the same?
Yes, I think this would be a terrible outcome, as you say, not only for Ukraine, but it would also say that other leaders can take territory, perhaps Xi Jinping take Taiwan with impunity, that others around the world could take territory with impunity, that sovereignty, territorial integrity, the right of countries to make their own choices would go by the wayside. So I think there's a lot of detail here. It's one thing to say to get a ceasefire, to stop the bombardment, things freeze in place, but then to get a final peace agreement, I cannot imagine Ukraine deciding that it's going to forever give up this territory and say that it belongs to Russia. We have never said that Crimea belongs to Russia, that they, in fact, legally own Crimea. I can't imagine we will do this for the Donbass either. I think it's important too, Joe, for your listeners to understand that all of this, of course, we want peace to break out around the world, but President Trump has said he could deal with this on day one. He said he could solve the Middle East on day one, and we have a real crisis of starvation in Gaza, and a prime minister who now wants to go all in taking Gaza City, putting the hostages at risk. We have, yes, this meeting at the White House today between Armenia and Azerbaijan. I understand that it may mean that a transit route will get named after President Trump. Everybody knows how to flatter him to try to get what they want, but it won't, in essence, really resolve Nagorno-Karabakh, which is at the heart of the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It also will not be something that Russia much likes. And then, of course, we've got these tariffs that are supposed to come in, secondary tariffs on India at the end of this month. That's all leverage in getting to an agreement on Ukraine. So the president has thrown a lot at all of us. And I think some of this is to make sure that we don't keep talking about that really nasty problem he's got in front of him called the release of the Epstein files.
Wow, you just married a whole bunch of stories there, Wendy. I hadn't heard about this trade route named for Trump. This is fascinating. As I read here, the agreement between the two nations would create the Trump route for international peace and prosperity. So that's how it's done. I'm going to ask you about what's happening in the Middle East in just a moment, but I want to just get your take as a professional diplomat on this back and forth over who should be in the meeting. At one point, President Trump said that Zelensky and Putin must first meet. Then he said maybe the three of them would meet together. And now he has walked that back to suggest that he's willing to meet with Putin alone, having said that, quote, "I don't like long waits. They would like to meet with me, and I will do whatever I can to stop the killing," unquote. If Zelensky's not in the room, what good is this?
Well, it certainly won't get us to a peace agreement, that's for sure. And, you know, the president is a very transactional negotiator. But what I find very interesting is he often gives up leverage in advance, trying to incentivize people to come to the table. He's doing that with Putin. Putin very much wants this meeting so he can look like he's in charge. He's defining what will happen here. I think Zelensky felt he'd gotten further with the president when they met on the margins of the Pope's funeral. But my guess is right now he's in a pretty nervous place. And the president spoke to the leaders of Europe with Zelensky on the phone to talk about what might be happening here. But details are never Trump's strong suit. Most of these tariff deals, as you all know better than I do, are really quite broad decisions without all of the details really being inked. Without any of us really knowing what's going to happen over the long term. We've seen that in the dust-up with Japan. I'm sure we will see that with others as well.
I'll be deeply curious to hear if President Trump weighs in on Israel's decision to occupy Gaza City. He does have, as I mentioned, some public opportunities here to speak today, but it's important. Israel's Security Council approving a plan to militarily occupy Gaza City as opposed to all of the Gaza Strip. Is it possible to defeat Hamas, as Israel is suggesting, without endangering the hostages that are the whole point of this conflict?
Sadly, Joe, I don't think so. The IDF, in fact, said during this 10-hour overnight discussion in the Israeli Security Cabinet that they could not say that the hostages would remain alive. They also said there would be many more deaths of IDF as well as civilians. Nonetheless, the Security Cabinet decided to go ahead. This has been roundly condemned all over the world. And quite extraordinarily, the Chancellor of Germany has said that no military weapons will go to Israel that might be used in Gaza as a result of this decision. I haven't found anyone yet who supports what the Prime Minister is doing, except for his very, very right-wing coalition partners who want to see Israel take over pretty much everything, including the West Bank.
We're showing some pretty horrifying images of Palestinians who are starving, trying to access food. And part of this plan would include the IDF providing humanitarian aid to civilians outside of combat zones as they enter Gaza City. It is unclear what these combat zones will be, though, and the camps that will be created in other areas to house refugees. Wendy, you know how complicated this type of planning can be. I'm just curious, drawing on your experience in the Biden administration, did President Biden, did Secretary of State Antony Blinken ever envision this going on for so long?
This has just been horrifying. As I believe even President Trump has reportedly said to Prime Minister Netanyahu in a phone conversation, don't tell me it's fake. This is Donald Trump saying, this is not fake news. You can just look at the pictures and see that they're starving people. 4 more people died of starvation today, including 2 children. The IDF has said it will take until, I think, at least October to get everybody out of Gaza City and find places for them to go. There's no housing in any of Gaza except some remaining in Gaza City. So where people will live is not known. You cannot feed this many people with one aid station. You have to have many aid stations so that you don't have people dying as they get stampeded trying to find food. It is a tragedy that USAID is gone. USAID knew how to do this. We had the expertise. We've done it all over the world. We know how to set up these humanitarian corridors and aid stations. The current foundation that's doing this really doesn't know how to do this. And there were months when Israel would not allow in any food. So we are in a very terrible place. And with this new effort to take over Gaza City, things are even worse.
Well, I was just going to say that the World Food Program knows how to do this too. Cindy McCain knows how to do this,
Yes.
but they've told us that they won't be allowed in. So will this occupation change that?
I don't see how. And the prime minister has sort of pulled back a little bit today, not saying they're going to occupy Gaza, because if they occupy Gaza legally, then they are responsible to making sure that everybody's fed and housed. So they are saying that they are going to really just get rid of Hamas, demilitarize Gaza, get Arab states to come in and take care of Gaza. But as others have said, I cannot imagine Arab states coming in behind the guns of Israel to take care of Palestinians. And Saudi Arabia, among other countries, has denounced this plan today.